We're back. We're back for another wonderful, exciting edition of the Derek King Sports Show. Glad you could join us this morning. I hope everybody's having a fantastic day. It's been really hectic over here. A lot of stuff going on. I don't want to bore you with the details. There's too many fun things that are happening in the world of sports. There's too many fun things that are happening, over here at Gateway City, Fuel Sports Network, Amazon Fire, Roku, every platform you can imagine. We're there. We're doing it. We're having a great time, and we're loving that every one of you are here with us along on this wonderful, joyous ride to a really fan-oriented, fan-based type of sports show that involves you, the fan, and your mindset and what you want to talk about, and not something that's on someone's political agenda or something that's on someone's financial agenda. We talk about sports from a fan's perspective. So that's what we're going to do today. A couple of the things that I want to address, just want to get the housekeeping stuff out of the way. GatewayCitySports.com. You can watch this feed live. We're projecting through StreamYard. Again, Amazon Fire, Roku, the whole smash. We're there. Go check it out. We're going to go ahead and just roll right into some of the things that I want to talk about. And that the very first thing I want to start off, Battlehawks are home, baby. That's why I'm wearing the blue. I'm wearing the Battlehawk blue. We're back home. Going to be at the Dome, Memphis Showboats this weekend, this Saturday. It's going to be a midday game. The idea that I want to stress is a couple of things we're going to talk about. We're going to get into it. But what should we expect out of the Battlehawks this weekend? What is going to be our expectation? We've watched these last couple of games. Okay, they've had 3 games total, but we've watched these last couple of games. There's been some changes. We've seen some adjustments. We've seen some things get done. I was at the game in St. Louis last go, and I tell you, I saw a team that was lethargic at the very beginning and that they had a lot of trouble moving the ball, but the defense seemed really, really good, or either that or the opposing team, which was the Renegades, had trouble moving the ball as well. But as the game went on, we started to see a lot of adjustments being made by both teams, and we saw the points start to pick up. And obviously we saw the final with a field goal at the very last few seconds of the game. It was very exciting. It was very fun. I had a great time. Talked with a bunch of amazing fans at the tailgate. I'm going to be there again this week, and we're going to be having some conversations. We're going to be talking about a lot of fun stuff, but what can we expect out of the Battlehawks this week? What is the game plan that Anthony Beck, the coach of the UFL St. Louis Battlehawks, what does he have up his sleeve? What is his plan going in against the Memphis Showboats? Now, the Memphis Showboats have shown some flashes of decency, but their record has not reflected that. So, again, you never want to go into these games as a fan, right? We're all Battlehawks fans here, or at least most of us. Some of you out there in the video scope are probably maybe Memphis Showboats fan. Maybe you're a DC fan or something else, Renegades fan. But from this fan's perspective, I'm a Battlehawks guy. So, therefore, we're going to talk about what can the Battlehawks do to win this game. Number one, it's that running game, man. You showed it in the last game. You got to establish that running game, that ground game, ground and pound, control the ball, control the clock. But it's also ball security. You have to put up the points. You have to score those points. If you're not scoring the points and you're not putting them up on the board and you're not keeping your defense off the field and allowing them to be fresh, you can't have them constantly with their back against the wall. Again, I've played defensive football, and I know how stressful it is as a defender to constantly be out there on the field and struggling, catching your breath. You're winded, you're blown up, and you're trying to find a way to stop these guys. I harken back to 1999 with the St. Louis Rams and the greatest show on turf. You couldn't keep those guys from just running down the field on you, but that also becomes a problem. If you start taking off and you don't kind of try to drag your opponent down a little bit, beat them up, make them tired, and you're just launching balls down the field like it was with the Rams in 99, 2000, well, 99 to basically 03, 04, where you're basically just launching it down the field because your wide receivers are track stars and they can catch a ball, and you have a quarterback that could throw a decent ball. We had a couple of those that could do that time frame. You're not really going to necessarily wear a defense out because they're only out there for 1 or 2 plays. You got to be pounding them, as far as keeping them on the field, running that ball, and just beating them up. And so that's going to be one of the key successes to the Battlehawks this week in the UFL against the Memphis Showboats this weekend. Now, I will stress that I see some changes. I saw it last week. And if you were watching the game, I was watching the game on ESPN Plus. So I'm an ESPN Plus subscriber because that's just how I like to do things. I love to stream. And one of the things that I saw during that game was I saw a more in-depth approach to how they were kind of laying out their offensive attack. I saw a little bit more advanced mentality in the defense, and especially in the mid-zone areas in the secondary. Linebackers were covering better. There was a lot of other different things that were helping a lot of this team's approach. Okay, so the one thing that I really stuck out to me was AJ McCarron's decision making. It had sped up. Now, that may be partially to do with having a better concept of the reads. Personally speaking, AJ's an NFL guy, okay? He's been in the NFL. He's played at NFL speed. When you come at NFL speed and you step to this, it's slower. The pace is slower. The guys are slower. The routes don't develop as quickly. And I know that everybody's like, well, it's not that much of a difference. It's pretty close. But still, you're talking about guys that are, almost to the millisecond, that they've planned it out and they know how to run those routes, and they know what the wide receiver's doing, what route they're trying to run on what play, and how they're trying to cut, and they can see the defense. And so they've got their reads. And as they're going through their reads, I see AJ McCarron going through his reads a lot faster. He's made that progression with his wide receiver core and his tight ends, or anyone coming out of the backfield, that he knows where they're going to be and at what point. Timing is key. Got to have that timing down. And so that's going to be one of the main core components with the offense, is be methodical, be pointed, be consistent. That's where you're going to have success. Don't turn the ball over. Simple. Okay. For the defense, it's going to be a little bit different, because in this game against the Showboats, I think that you're going to have to kind of try to find a way to control the quarterback. If you don't get after the quarterback in this game and knock him around a little bit, make him a little rattled, make him make some irrational decisions, throw the ball too soon, hold on to it too long, whatever it is you got to do as a defense, you need to get up there and you need to smash them in the mouth. That's what you need to do as a defense. If you're not rushing these guys and you're not making them spooked, they're going to just run all over you. They're going to play draw plays. They're going to do little toss outs. They're going to do little things to try to get you off of your game. And so I think that we're probably going to be looking more at a standard 4-3 defense. Probably more than likely, you're going to see a secondary man-to-man. You're going to see a lot more man-to-man on your outside lanes, but on your inside lanes, you're going to see a lot of zone. So you're going to see a lot of bubble zone there in the middle. You remember here last week or week before last, I had done my smiley face defensive routine, right? You guys saw that. So just imagine drawing a smiley face, right? 2 eyes and a smiley face, right? And a nose, right? So that's your backers, front offensive lineman, middle linebacker for your nose, and your 2 eyes are your safeties. So you've got your quarterbacks out here. Okay, let them run man-to-man. Let them go right down the sidelines. That's where you're going to have the most success with defense, is you're going to have that push and shove coming off the line. You're going to want to slow up the pace. You're going to want to interrupt that timing that the quarterback has that we just discussed about where the Battlehawks can have success this week is in that timing. So against the Memphis Showboats, again, I'm gonna go with the home team. I'm predicting a win. Yes, I'm a homer. Okay, fine, whatever. Call me out on it. Get in the comments. Call me out and say I'm a homer. It's fine. But I'm gonna go with the Battlehawks on this one. I'm gonna take the money line. And it's just that the Battlehawks, I've seen an advancement in progression. I've seen what AJ McCarron can do and what he has done. I've seen Durant, what he can do out of the backfield. I'm liking what I'm seeing there. We've got the wide receiver. What is his name? Pearson? Or I got to double check on that because he came out of Seattle with the Sea Dragons over there from last season, and he was one of the number one receivers last year. So I've got to double check on that. So pardon my ignorance on who all of these individuals are. Now, I'm predicting, don't go to Vegas and bet on this because it's not slam dunk money here, but I'm predicting a Battlehawks win by about 10 points. So if you want to say 7.5, we could do that. You know, we could look at that. Yeah. Jacor Peterson. Yeah. That's Will. He's the man. That's why we call him the insider. He knows all of these individuals. He's going to be a factor. So the next thing that I want to kind of progress into, because we're coming in on 13 minutes in, we're almost nearly halfway, and I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about this because it's something that it was sad to hear the news, and that's the passing of Whitey Herzog. I grew up all throughout the 80s watching Whitey Ball and watching, Ozzie Smith and watching Vince Coleman and, it just Todd Worrell and Keith Hernandez, just, all of that Cardinals early 80s, right? Cardinals, Whitey Ball, speedsters defense, put the ball in play, run it out. A little bit of baseball died the other day, at least the old school way of baseball. And, as we lovingly knew him as the White Rat, Whitey was kind of the man's manager. He was a no-nonsense, no frills, easygoing, laid-back kind of guy that had a really good relationship with his players. And the players loved him and everything. And then when he stepped away in, 92, 93, he felt like he lost the clubhouse at that point. And it was, that was his decision. He was coming up on that point anyways. And not only was Whitey such an important part of baseball as far as what he did, and that's what everybody knows as far as Whitey Ball is concerned and what we all grew up with through the 80s and all of that era and the World Series and all the success. It kind of, if it wasn't for Whitey, would we have seen that? I'm doubtful. I'm doubtful that we would have seen that. Not only was Whitey a great manager and he was a man's manager, he was one of the boys. He was one of the guys that could be in the clubhouse and be with everybody else, but also be a leader. But he was also a leader in the community. And he was a real upstanding citizen and philanthropist, even after his St. Louis Cardinal days, stayed in the area, retired in the area. There's not a lot of individuals that you could say that to when you're talking about Whitey Herzog specifically. There are people in the area that have retired to the St. Louis area and things like that. I think of, obviously Ozzie Smith and Jackie Smith, the Cardinals tight end Hall of Famer and all-time great. You look at somebody like Marcus Allen, who's lived in the area. I don't know if he still does, but I knew there was at one point in time where Marcus Allen had lived in the area. Mr. Housewright could probably attest to that because his connections with the Chiefs, and obviously Mr. Allen being a former Chiefs running back. But Whitey was a good guy. Cardinals were special when he was the manager. Growing up as a young kid, I loved the Cardinals. All of that was lost when Nitwit and company bought the team. You know, I think there's a lot of hate that gets pushed towards the DeWitt family. And and I understand where Jeremy's coming from. I get it. But I also would say the DeWitt family has St. Louis in their history, even though they're Cincinnati, all this, I get it. But their family actually was with the Browns, the St. Louis Browns, before, they left and went to Baltimore to become the Orioles. And it's actually surprises a lot of people when I talk to them about history of teams, where they've been, all of these other things, that they're really shocked that the Browns were in St. Louis. The Orioles were in St. Louis as the Browns. But yeah, that's part of the history. I actually have somewhere around here in one of my boxes or something. It's an old St. Louis Browns hat. It's pretty cool. And I love wearing that sometimes and talking to people about that. Jeremy also says that you could always find Whitey fishing somewhere in New Athens or Columbia. He was always around. I mean, the guy was everywhere, and he never met a person that wasn't just immediately a friend. I mean, he would talk to you about anything. He would talk to you about fishing. He'd talk to you about baseball. He'd talk to you about anything. And that's what was always great about Whitey. Up to the Marcus Allen thing, Marcus Allen is in O'Fallon. He moved there because his ex-wife was here and his son was here. So there you go. There's another part to that. And also he adds to it, Allen is a frequent visitor to Ameristar. He is. I forgot about that. But he is. And so he's in the area. The great Marcus Allen, running back. I've got one of his jersey cards floating around here in one of my safes over here in the corner, I believe. Joe Montana and Marcus Allen jersey card duel. Pretty cool stuff. You guys ought to check into that sometime. It's one of those shows I think that we're probably going to do is talk a little bit about the sports memorabilia world. Obviously, as you can see behind me, it's a big core component to what I do. We're going to take a real quick break, real quick. We just got to do a real quick cutout. We're going to come right back, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Whitey Herzog and what he means and meant to St. Louis and what he was all about. So hang tight. We'll be right back.
It's time I get in the game, forget the money and fame. Stay ready, making sure that they'll remember my name. I got a hunger inside when the numbers are tied. Yo, I'ma turn it up a level, never will be denied.
All right. So we're back. And one of the things that I want to talk about with Whitey, and, this kind of goes for Tony La Russa. This kind of goes for other managers that have had a large amount of success with the Cardinals organization. We're going to talk a little bit about DeWitt's and the ownership group. Obviously, we remember Gussie. Mr. Jeremy can attest to this. But Gussie Busch, who was the owner of the team during the 80s when they had that big, long run of success and several World Series. Unfortunately, Jeremy can argue with me all he wants, but he probably won't because he's a Kansas City guy. I understand he's a KC guy. He's a big KC fan, but they got screwed on that call at first base. That's one of the worst calls ever. We've all seen it. He was out by a stride, and they dropped the ball on that one. And so, unfortunately, they just kind of got screwed on that one. But yeah, we've seen the success that they had during his tenure here as the Cardinals skipper. And when he walked away, enter Joe Torre at the time. And Joe Torre, as we know, sorry, a little bit of a issue there with the eye. But Joe Torre, as we know, had such great success with the Yankees after leaving the Cardinals. You got to ask yourself the question, was it more about money and players, Or was it more about coaching ability? That's a really good question to be asking. Because what did Joe Torre do when he was with the Cardinals? They weren't that successful. That's why he was let go. He goes to New York. He has all the success that he has in New York. He's got George Steinbrenner as an owner, one of the highest payrolls in the league, goes out and gets all the big superstars, and they go ring chasing. And then after he leaves the Yankees, he goes to the Dodgers for a couple of years. And what did he do? Did he win any World Series with the Dodgers? No, that was Dave Roberts. Wasn't actually Joe Torre. So the question remains, and you look at what Whitey Herzog was able to do, and we all know how Gussie was with the money. Gussie was not as flamboyant with the money as what people would lead to believe. Gussie, to be honest, was probably just as bad, if not worse, than the DeWitt family. Let's be fair. You know, Richard says money, money, money. Yeah, money talks. And money's going to get you what you want. It's going to get you the superstar players. It's going to get you all of that. And I hearken back to a story that was told. And I remember a kid asking Ken Griffey Jr. while he was signing baseballs if he would ever come and play with the Yankees. And he said, if that was the only contract that was offered to him, if he was a free agent, he'd retire. There's reasons for that. He talked about those reasons. I implore you all to go and look it up. When he was a kid and his dad, Ken Griffey Sr., was playing, and they had went to New York, Yankees, and he saw a particular player and their kid out on the field, ground balling, doing stuff, just playing out there. And then there was basically, you can't go out there and you can't, there's some animosity there. And so I don't blame him. There's a lot of things in the Yankees history that are not quite so elegant. And unfortunately, because if anybody's really studied a lot of these teams, I mean, look at Marge Schott, what kind of owner she was with the Cincinnati Reds. You guys really look into the history of some of these owners. It's the same thing with the NFL. Look at Jerry Jones. Look at some of the stuff he's done. It's been terrible. But, we get back to the managers. These managers can only do so much. They can only work with the hand that they're dealt. And you could be the best manager, the best coach. You could be Bill Belichick. You could be, Dick Vermeil. You could be an amazing coach. You can be an amazing manager. You can be Tony La Russa. You could be Joe Torre. You could be, name a million of them. You could be any of them. But if you don't have financial support and you don't have the support of the ownership, you're just never going to make it. Thankfully, the relationship that Whitey and Gussie had during the 80s was a fruitful relationship. I go back, to what we were talking about earlier with Torre. Jeremy says it here. Torre was a hell of a manager with New York. Look at the egos he had to manage. It's true. He did have to manage some major egos in New York. I mean, do we need to go down the list of some of the players that he had to deal with? Andy Reid's a great example. He won lots of games in Philly, but he never could get the big one. Perfect example. Then they go to somewhere else and they have success and they thrive and they win World Series and they win Super Bowls and they win World Cups and they do all of these things. And it's happened in every sport, guys. Even look at hockey. When Joel Quenneville was in St. Louis and then he left and he went to other places and he had success. Now, barring what happened in the past and what happened in the 20 teens, we don't need to discuss that. That's off on another tangent. That's another show for a different day. Let's not get into that. Oh, and Jeremy makes a really good point here in the comment section. New York media is brutal. Bro, I'm telling you, man, I have sat in on some of those. And I'm going to tell you right now, those, and I use this term loosely, those people, they're brutal, like you said. They are monsters. They have no shame. They'll cut you off at the knees. They don't care. It's New York media, man. They are absolutely ruthless, and it's entertaining. Mr. Kevin, how you doing, brother? Good morning, by the way. They are cutthroat. It's rough. It's rough, guys. You go down to Dallas. You talk to Big Sarge down there in Texas. He's down there in Houston, and he's covering the Houston Texans. He covers a lot of different sports down there. Great dude. Check him out. But he deals with Texas media, and Texas media they're like really like straight laced. Everybody's really polite. Nobody does anything crazy or anything like that. But man, you go to New York, LA, oh my gosh. And here's the thing with LA. I don't mean to get off on a tangent and beat up on LA, but their media is somewhat, they're not really informed. It almost seems like they kind of go in half baked, and not in a literal term, but you get the idea. Dallas will never win a title as long as Jerry's living. I agree, because Jerry can't help but be Jerry. You see, if anybody's watched the Cowboys, I've watched the Cowboys. I mean, talk to any other fan out there that was in the 80s in St. Louis, especially when we were in the East with the Cowboys and having to fight against them and the Giants and the Redskins. Oh my gosh, just the rivalries we had in St. Louis with the Cardinals in the 80s, the Big Red. It's just wild. And yeah, Jeremy says LA media is weird. They are weird. They're just odd. New York, you can get it. You get the kind of, it's the same thing with Chicago, right? Chicago, if you've ever been in the Chicago media scrum, I believe Mr. Jeremy's been involved with a couple of those in the past at some point in time. Chicago's pretty cutthroat too. They're pretty bad. They're pretty ruthless. And so, you just see it in these bigger cities. Another point, one of the prominent LA sports writers is from SIUE, Bill Plaschke. Yeah, he's a good writer and good reporter, and they do have some. They've got a couple of good ones at the Times. They've got a couple of good ones out there that work within the television format and all of the studios and different things that they do out there. But it almost seems like it's this, and me and the dirty one over on the X-Fan show on the Field Sports Network, it's kind of like this. Which way's the wind blowing? And that's how they determine their thought process. But when it comes to Whitey, how he handled the St. Louis sports media, what he managed to do with that organization during that time frame, let's not forget the Gary Templeton incident. And I believe it was on Mother's Day weekend, something like that, where he had flipped the bird at the crowd. And Whitey, you can see the picture. Go Google it. Whitey Templeton. Let's go Herzog Templeton. And you'll see Whitey, he's yanking Templeton off the steps of the dugout into the dugout. And immediately after that, Templeton's traded to the San Diego Padres. And guess what we get in return? The wizard, Ozzie Smith. Man, who turned out better? No, don't get me wrong. Templeton was a great ball player. He was a better bat than Ozzie was. But Ozzie eliminated so much defensively that he made up for his lack of offensive prowess with the bat, with getting on base, making the occasional steal when he needed to. He was fast. He was quick on the base paths. And if you ever got into a hit and run situation or a run and hit, he was excellent at that. Same with Willie, same with Coleman. Hernandez, obviously, he was not a big power guy, but man, he could hit the ball. He knew how to hit the ball, where to hit the ball, and what situations. That team was built by Whitey, was designed by Whitey, and that's why Whitey is revered in the way that he is in the sports world in St. Louis. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the show for today. We've had a great one, and thank you so much for everything that you guys have shown up for the shows and you guys have supported us. I want to thank you for everything that you've done for us. And I implore you to check in on me next week at 9 a.m. Wednesday, same bat time, same bat channel as we always do. But I'll be seeing you guys this weekend at the Battlehawks at the Battle Home, the home game for the Battlehawks this weekend against the Memphis Showboats. I'll be seeing you guys there midday. Remember, don't forget about it. I'll see you soon. You guys take care. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.